What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Thursday, December 18th, 1 week before Christmas. Y'all better get your list finished. So we had some big news here in South Carolina yesterday with John Paul Miller being indicted by the feds on 2 counts. And once we go through the allegations in the indictment, we're going to do a little bit of a backstory on this case. When it happened, I can't remember what trial I was covering, but I was very busy and didn't have time to do a proper backstory. Now, let me tell you guys, this story is so convoluted and bizarre and tragic. This is not going to be every single thing that happened before and after his wife Micah's death. And it's probably going to take a few episodes to really nail down what I want to get out there as we follow these new charges in the court system. But before we jump into the backstory, let's talk about the indictment. John Paul Miller was the pastor at Solid Rock Church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which actually is not far at all from my parents' beach house. Been by this place many times. He's been indicted on 2 counts by the feds for cyberstalking and lying to investigators. Yesterday, the FBI posted on Facebook the defendant's alleged actions were predatory, measured, and inflicted profound trauma to the victim, her family, and loved ones. While this indictment marks the first phase of the criminal process, it represents a crucial step towards accountability. We hope this step offers a measure of peace as the healing continues for the family. So back on November 1st of last year, the FBI executed a search warrant at JP's home. Among things they were seen bringing out were electronics, and so our dog ears went up and we were like, something's going on. But over a year later, I'd really forgotten they had raided his home until yesterday. So what are the allegations in the indictment? It says between November 16th, 2022 and April 27th, 2024, I'm going to call him JP, by the way, JP Miller used interactive computer services, electronic communications services, electronic communications systems of interstate commerce, and other facilities of interstate and foreign commerce to engage in a course of conduct that placed victim 1, meaning Mica Miller, his former wife, in reasonable fear of death and serious bodily injury, and attempted to cause, and the course of conduct would be reasonably expected to cause Micah substantial emotional distress. He used or threatened to use nude videos and photographs to harass his wife and posted a nude photo of her online without her permission. He placed a tracking device on her vehicle and interfered with her finances and other daily activities. He falsely claimed to investigators on October 17th, 2024, that Micah had called him more than he called her on March 11th, 2024, which he is accused of calling her at least 50 times more than she called him. He also falsely claimed that he had never been instructed by police to stop contacting Micah. But the indictment says an Horry County police officer warned him on March 11th, 2024 to stop calling Micah. Another allegation is that he lied to investigators about damaging the tires on Micah's car. And they say he bought a tire deflation device online and sent messages to other people about her car. They also say he lied when he told investigators he hired a private investigator to protect Micah from buying firearms. However, in reality, he hired the investigator to cyberstalk her for alleged adultery. So what kind of time and penalties is he facing if convicted? For the cyberstalking charge, 5 years in prison. And for lying to investigators, he faces 2 years and a fine up to $250,000. His arraignment is scheduled for January 12th in Florence, South Carolina. I may try to go to that because it's not far from the family beach house and I can make a little mini vacay out of that. So let's do a backstory to refresh ourselves on the facts of the case. Micah met JP when she was a child, around 10 years old, and later when she was 14 or 15 when her family started attending his church, Solid Rock. At the time, JP was married to his first wife, Allison. Micah said that JP groomed her for years, but he also officiated her wedding to her first husband, who was also said to be JP's best friend. Now, their relationship began years later as an affair in 2015, and she was working as a nanny for his children. After divorcing their spouses, Micah and JP married November 7th, 2017. Micah first filed for separation in January of 2023 and then filed for divorce in October of that year. That was later dismissed by consent order in February of 2024. The second time she filed was April 15th, 2024. That was filed for support and maintenance. So what does that mean? Here in South Carolina, it's a court order for spouses to live apart while remaining legally married. It addresses finances like alimony, child custody, which did not come into play. They had no children together, support, and property division. It essentially acts like a legal separation to structure life during separation without the full divorce in place. JP was served with those papers on April 25th, 2024, just 2 days before Micah's death on April 27th. There was a hearing that was set for June 5th of last year where Micah wanted a restraining order to keep JP from altering the status or the value of their marital assets. After Micah's death, her siblings made some filings. They said that Micah was involuntarily hospitalized from February 8th through 10th by JP. And when Micah was discharged, hospital staff told her that her husband picked up her purse and car keys. When she went to pick up her car, it was not where she left it. The affidavit also said that JP transferred assets, which included the deed to their home, to one of his sons, and also moved Micah's personal belongings from their home while she was hospitalized. In the filing, her sister also said she spoke to Micah a few times a week and texted with her daily. She said Micah expressed the abuse and violence against her by her husband to others, including family members and members of the church congregation. According to JP, weeks before she died, Micah came over to his house and he said they talked for 4 hours. Micah told him she wanted to come home but was afraid her family would disown her if she did. And I call BS. After she left, she never contacted JP again. He said he continued texting and emailing her as well as texting her family, but she never responded back. On March 11th of last year, Micah filed 2 reports with the Horry County Police Department, and she believed somebody was following her. She also reported someone put a razor blade in her tire at the Spring-Made Pier. She said this incident was the second time a razor had flattened her tire that week. The responding officer said the metal sticking out of her tire was a tire deflation device, and those can be bought online. She also said someone was annoying her with phone calls, and she noticed strange activity and thought people were following her or watching her. She told law enforcement the suspect, whose name was redacted in the report, but we know who it was JP, had a history of doing actions against her. She said he showed up at a gas station and pulled up right next to the pump she was using, trying to talk to her. When she tried to pull out her phone to record the interaction, he sped off. Micah was going to get her tires fixed, and an officer was with her at the dealership when Micah got a call with no caller ID. The officer noted in the report JP was advised Micah wanted no further contact, and if he continued, a warrant could be sought. In the report, the officer said Micah was afraid for her life and that she blocks his numbers, but she still gets calls and texts from JP, who's using other numbers, which is very easy to do. For instance, you can get a Google phone number for free with any area code you want. You can get voicemails and everything on that. She later called the officer to say a mechanic found a tracking device on her car. From there, Micah went to the magistrate's office to try and get a restraining order, and while there, she gave that GPS tracker to police outside the courthouse. While Micah was there, a white Honda Accord slowly passed by, and who was in it? JP. It then sped off. That was also noted in the officer's report. He's also accused of posting a topless photo of Micah online. He denied all those allegations, but there was a letter he wrote to Micah apologizing for doing those things. And that email was obtained by News Nation. It said, "I'm sorry for putting a picture of you on the internet. It was for less than 1 hour and immediately taken down. I was hurt that you were telling everyone horrible, intimate details of my past sin, and I just wanted to try and hurt you. Please forgive me. It was evil of me to do that." And he would be right. Y'all know I'm all about some peace and love, but when I see his face, I want to punch things. It's just something about him. Ugh. 9 days before Micah's passing, she submitted an affidavit to the court saying, "Since the day we became husband and wife, I've been abused in every way I can think of, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, financially, and physically. He has harassed me physically and electronically with letters, phone calls, emails, and texts, hacking my emails, hacking my personal Facebook, and impersonating me, using my stolen phone to send texts and emails out to church members pretending to be me, texting family and friends saying I'm sleeping with teenagers from our church, and showing up in person at places around town, to having installed 3 different tracking devices on my vehicle. Ironically enough, we'll get to this in a future episode, JP accused of being with minors in the past, as well as his daddy, who is also I hate to even say it, a preacher. Now, Micah made some Facebook posts in mid-March of 2024. In one, she said, "I just want to let you know that I'm alive and well. Life's been kind of crazy a couple past weeks, months, and years. I've kind of had to keep my circle really small for the past couple of weeks just because I'm going through a lot and it's hard, and it's my cross to bear." In another post, she said a bunch of people have been reminding her that I'm God's bride first. And even an earthly spouse, who's a good spouse, when they know that their bride is being hurt, just imagine what an earthly spouse does. What do you think your heavenly spouse does? When you're the bride of Christ and he sees his bride going through abuse and hurt, what do you think he thinks about that? Micah encouraged everybody watching to share the video with anyone struggling with leaving a dangerous situation because they think God will be mad at them. So what happened to Micah? Bless her heart, y'all. I just feel so horrible for her. And every time I see a picture, it just breaks my heart. She was so beautiful and full of life, but unfortunately, she was married to a monster. She died by what was ruled a self-inflicted gunshot wound on April 27th, 2024 at Lumber River State Park in North Carolina. Her body was found in the water at the park after she said in a 911 call that she intended to take her own life, but she did want her family to know where to find her. Based on the investigation and the evidence, including surveillance of her and the 911 call, it was ruled self-harm. John Paul said, "When she was with me for 7 years, she was happy, healthy, whole, and lived her life and loved it. Apart from me for 3 months, she self-harmed." Now, Micah's family's attorney said that Micah's mental health issues did not start until her relationship with JP began. Now, JP was not charged in relation to causing Micah's death, but the circumstances as well as his really bizarre and inappropriate behavior have been at the forefront since her death, with many following the case believing that he drove her to self-harm, which I completely agree with. And in fact, we've seen a lot of cases where cyberstalking turns into criminal cases when people take their own life as a result. Micah's body was found about 13 feet away from where her purse, her phone, and the shell casings were located. This led her family to argue it could not have floated there naturally and could potentially have been moved. Ultimately, Micah's body was released to JP and cremated without an autopsy, a toxicology report, or even gunpowder residue testing, which Micah's family said in doing that, it destroyed crucial evidence. And in what I think is trying to get ahead of the narrative, he made the most bizarre announcement at his church at the end of a Sunday service on April 28th, 2024, where he announced Micah's death. He asked the congregation to stand up for an announcement, and he said, "I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. It was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're going to have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. Please stand and don't talk about it while you're in the building." People in that service pointed out that he was joking around and laughing while he was preaching the sermon before he got to the part where he told of Micah's passing. Her obituary was written by JP, and there was a lot of self-serving in there. He wrote, "She and JP have been friends since 2009, married in 2017, and spent almost every single day and night together. She helped pastor JP with the church in every way. She would praise her husband after every church service, telling him he was the best preacher in the world. He put in parentheses, even if it wasn't true. She also told him he was the funniest preacher in the world, and in parentheses, even though that wasn't true either. Ugh, so nauseating, y'all. At the funeral he preached, he said he visited Micah's body several times at the morgue. He said he even tried to raise her from the dead, saying, I got to lay next to her body and spend time with her body about 4 times this week, and each time it still didn't hit me. I thought she was going to wake up. I even tried to raise her from the dead one time this week. He also told a story about seeing a woman in a mall who he thought was Micah, only to realize it was her sister when the woman turned around. He spoke about Micah's personality and contributions, saying something along the lines of how beautiful she was on the inside as well as the outside, and how she loved people and the church, and how she would talk for hours and hours and hours. And then he recalled their life and their travels together. That service was posted online briefly, and then clips started circulating around online. But guess what? The church took the video down, and I checked today, it's still listed as private. Micah's family and friends held their own funeral for her separate from his. JP said, the one thing I have great peace about between me, God, and my wife is that I was the best husband I could possibly be. And if I would have done it over again, I don't think I could have done it any better. Now, of course, the fallout after her death was swift and on a large scale. The case went national. It was the topic on every true crime network. YouTube channels, content creators picked up on it, TikTok, with everybody blaming JP for driving her to the point of hurting herself. And just when you think you couldn't sink any lower, hold your horses. JP told Micah's siblings by text about their sister's death. He texted, I thought you two should know Micah killed herself earlier today. She needed her lithium because she has been having a 3-month psychotic episode. I'll keep you posted on funeral. Now, there was a lot of back and forth between JP, and eventually other members of Micah's family joined into this group text with JP. In another message, he blamed her family, saying, this is what happens when you try to encourage someone to divorce the person they love and tell them they don't need medicine and they're not ill when they are. Good job, Francis family. Micah's sister replied, F out of here. You are the reason our sister is dead. Another family member responded to JP saying it's easy to shift the blame when that's all you know how to do. No one told her not to take her meds. Get that through your thick skull. You drove her crazy, simple as that. And the surgery you wanted set her off on this path. How dare you even contact us talking like that? So what surgery are they talking about? Micah had an elective breast augmentation surgery in December of 2017, after which JP claimed Micah experienced a psychotic episode and was admitted to a mental hospital. There have been civil lawsuits filed against JP Miller and his dad, including claims that he sexually assaulted minors decades ago while serving in church roles. His father, Wayne Miller, also implicated in those lawsuits. These alleged assaults happened at the churches that both were pastors of. The suits allege misusing his position and negligence by the church. And there have been a lot of local protests down in Myrtle Beach, and the cause is justice for Micah. These are by people critical of JP's actions before and after Micah's death. I've driven by a couple of these protests. There were a lot of people out there. And he's also been in court over issues with protesters. One time he was arrested for third-degree assault that stemmed from a confrontation with someone who was protesting. There have been civil suits filed against him and suits filed by JP against others. I think the latest tally is over 30. So on the next episode, we're going to dive into JP's very bizarre behavior before and after Micah's death, more allegations against him, and he was married again earlier this year to a woman that he was seen out with very shortly after Micah's death. And there is a potential twist to that story we will dive into involving the death of her husband. So that is it for this episode. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.